My name is Alex Preston, and I'll be reading from my first novel, This Bleeding City. Prologue, At the End of the City. I remember shouts far off across the trading floor, the humming of computers and the ringing of telephones. I remember streamers of sunlight that blazed into the room. I remember all of this. I remember the photo of you and Luca that sat in its silver frame on my desk. Then, shuddering, I remember the moment when a beam of light shimmered at the edge of the photo frame, and I realized I'd left him in the car, and fear raced up my arms and into my chest. Scattering research papers behind me, I ran towards the door and out to the elevators, jamming the button thumb-white hard. One lift went up, then another. I made for the stairs, taking the steps down 5, 7 at a time, then through the doors and outside. Dazzled by the brilliant May sunshine, I looked up towards the church and, behind its ancient and clean-cut spire, the car park. A crowd of bleary tourists sat outside Patisserie Valerie, sipping their lattes, dissecting enormous croissants whose flakes were lifted by the breeze and flung skywards. It was the breeze that gave me hope. The cool breeze that blew low over the waters of the Thames, up Gracechurch Street, along Bishopsgate, and then lifted the hairs on my arms and the awnings of the Brushfield Street shops. I ran in a frenzy straight down the road as a white escort van backed into my path. I swerved, heard yelling behind me, slipped on leather soles, and then was across Commercial Street and into the shadow of the church. The church rose out of the murk of the surrounding buildings like an arm from a lake. I used to gaze at it while I worked. Standing with phone clasped between shoulder and ear, I would lose track of my thoughts as I stared at the spire. It seemed to represent something pure and hopeful as it battled to break free from its earthly surroundings. I wrenched my mind back to the present. It was heating up. I pushed open the door of the car park and threw myself into the damp air. Cold railings were slick beneath my palms. I lurched, drunk with speed, from side to side as I climbed. Each turn promised to be the last and wasn't. Each door promised to give out onto the lofty and dangerous roof and didn't. Every floor was full of dark, shadowy cars. Cars that had parked before me that morning, cars that hadn't been held up by a statistically improbable combination of red lights and stalled buses and elderly road crossers, cars that would have been, if not a safe place to leave a 2-year-old boy, then not a fatal place, not out there on the wide roof. As I came out into the impossibly bright daylight, I saw the Polo parked on the other side of the grey tarmac roof. Saw the baby seat over the top of which I could make out his blonde head. He wasn't moving.